Welcome, my darling pretties, to our Beyond the Dawn of Business podcast for pretty, empowered female entrepreneurs. It's time to step into your power, pretties. Lift each other, support the squad, and choose a life filled with the autonomy and freedom to live your dreams. I'm your host, Dawn Beth, owner and founder of Beyond the Dawn digital business brand and agency. My coffee is hot and my eyelashes are on, so we are ready to go. Hi and welcome to this episode. Today I am delighted to welcome the lovely Rebecca Watson here with me, who is a fantastic brand designer and brand strategist for female entrepreneurs. And today we're going to have a little conversation just all about the importance of your brand, especially during a time where perhaps there are some economic situations, where there is some external hardship for businesses, and just to talk about why it's so important for you to have a really, really strong brand identity that will carry you through the hardest of times, but also make things really clear for you as a business owner on what it is that you actually need to be communicating and how you can do that in your messaging in such a profound and fantastic way. Welcome, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm up in the wilds of Cumbria today, and it's absolutely blowing a hoolie outside. So I'm glad you can't see my my hair, because it's been absolutely blowing about today. So yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good.
Oh, good. So in terms of like what we do in our businesses, you and I are very much aligned. We have mad passion for people having really like beautiful but strong identities, not just in their own kind of like business styles and personalities, but in that overall brand that allows them to attract proper ideal clients, people who are like just dreamy, fantastic clients, but also that feels really authentic and true to them, the people who have created these businesses, often from nothing. What would be your kind of like main point as to why branding is so important from your perspective?
Well, I think obviously, when you look around you and look at the people who, you're competing with, maybe somebody out there is, just starting the business and they've never even considered who it is that they're, working alongside or not against, but certainly in the same marketplace of. And the reason why it's so important is because you want to stand out. You want to be that business that people think, oh, actually, they look like they know what they're doing. They look professional. They look like the sort of, people that I would like to work with. They're my sort of vibe and things like that. And the way that we communicate that is often very visually. So I think that, it's all good and well to have everything in your business, especially if you're product based, a lot of focus is on equipment and raw materials and all of those things. And then the branding kind of comes second sometimes. And they're kind of looking at it thinking, I should maybe start thinking about this now. And quite often it's the last thing that they think about. And that's why it's so important to start thinking about it, at the very infancy of your business, so that you're able to then really plan for the future and make sure that you're the business that gets chosen out of all of the others that they could potentially choose from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because my first ever business was a product business. It was very much a physical product situation. Mm-hmm. And the branding side of things for me came very, very easily. Like, I knew what I wanted to call the business. I made my own logo, which I know it would be hilarious if I hadn't, right?
Yeah.
I did all of it myself, because obviously that's where my expertise already came from. But obviously that's not the way it is for most business owners. It's not something that you really should, unless you do have qualifications or experience in this area, try to DIY. And that's the thing that I always find quite interesting, is that until you've spoken to a seasoned business owner or entrepreneur, quite often people think that branding is something that only requires your attention once you get to a certain level of business. But actually, if you can get that kind of foundational part in place earlier,
Yeah.
you've got so much, like a such bigger chance of success, right?
Absolutely. And I think as well, it will sort of, I think people see it as a bit of a nice to have when they first start their business. It's not something that's necessarily the top of their list. And that's not to say that's the case for everybody, but certainly quite a few people who I've worked with in the past have sort of said, you know, oh, I got a logo done on Fiverr, or I went to a friend who does art and she designed me something. And then they quickly realise that it's just not going to last the course of the longevity of their business, and it certainly might hinder the longevity of their business as well if it's something that's not very considered. It's something that perhaps isn't very, you know, stand out in the marketplace that they're competing in. And if it just doesn't represent who they are as a business, and that's what you know, seasoned designers like you and myself do to make sure that, you know, they do stand out and that everything's considered and that they know exactly who it is that they want to work with or sell to, so that we can tailor all of the visuals to that. And unfortunately, it's something that's really difficult to do on your own. And actually, I know what you were saying before about your first business and everything, and you did your own logo and everything. It's really hard to design for yourself, do you not think?
I actually find it really easy, but I really do believe that that's because of my training. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to do it if I didn't already have that skill, you know, kind of already there. And what I find really interesting and I love is that when you speak to a new business owner, or even a seasoned business owner that's just realised the importance, and they, you know, they might have tried you know, one of those £12.50 Facebook logos, or a Fiverr, somebody off Fiverr doing the logo, or, you know, that the old adage of, well, I went on Google Play or the App Store and got a logo app and just had to fiddle around and, you know, all of that malarkey. Is that when you actually have that conversation, when you actually have that kind of brand meeting, that initial one where you get to the bottom of what it's actually about, like, who are you as a person, what is the motivation here, what is this business going to be, what is it going to be in the world. I always find that really, really interesting, and that's the moment of that kind of like the birthing of that idea almost hasn't happened until somebody can dig deeper into that and kind of like really truly identify their connection to it, as well as what it will mean to the people that they work with.
Absolutely. No, and as well, what I was thinking before, you know, when I do things for myself, it's just, sometimes it's just me, you know, I do work alone in my business quite a lot. And it's nice actually to have somebody else, even if you're quite creative, but you're maybe not able to create your own logo or something like that. It's nice to work with a brand designer who can not only help you with the ideas generation and really look at, you know, delving deep into your business, but just to have that other person who's dedicated and wants the best for your brand. And I think sometimes if you go somewhere on Fiverr, or perhaps with a friend who really isn't invested in your business at all, you know, where you know, if you look at the brand designers and professionals, they'll often have, you know, all of the testimonials, the case studies, and just proof that they will do a good job for you as well. And having that peace of mind is absolutely massive, isn't it? Just to know that that person will do a good job for you. So whilst it's tempting to do it yourself or to find a friend who does art and design, it often doesn't work out, and it's very, very rare that I've ever seen that happen where it's actually been a good decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what I really always kind of honed into whenever we work with somebody on brand is that the essential thing is not just about the communication, it's very much about the comprehension of the person that you ideally want to work with. And much like when we support people with social media messaging, or we do anything else, like we build funnels, websites, all of that malarkey, all of those things are going to be stemmed from this one arena. Like once you've got this bit down and you're comfortable and it's there for you, it's a brand asset in a way that serves you, and the return of investment on that particular brand asset is so huge. Yet for some reason it's still, even now in 2022, not quite understood just how fundamental having this for your business can be. And we love birthing new brands. Like, it's one of the most joyous things that we do in our agency, and I'm sure you feel the same way when you help your clients. There's something just super beautiful in being involved in this area of their business, and you just know that you're giving them the potential of thriving in such a good way. And when I worked, I used to work in like luxury brands, and one of the things that we used to do is we used to work in jewellery and things, and I used to tell my couples that were coming in and buying wedding rings and all of that the two main things that you will go away with after your wedding day will be the rings that you wear day to day and the photography. Like, after your wedding day, they're the two things that you take with you forevermore, right? Everything else is just for the day. Those are the things that are the long-standing kind of returns on that investment. Absolutely. And I feel like branding is like the business version of that. Yeah, like, there's so many things that you will pay for, and they'll just be like, use once and throw away, and you'll see the value in that use once and throw away. Like, people will buy courses before they get their branding sorted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I do see that quite a lot. Before somebody's come to me, they've kind of went down every single avenue to try and either do it themselves, work it out for themselves. And more times than not, they will just say, you know what, I actually need someone else. And we're all guilty of that. I know when I started my business 9 years ago, I did my own website. I literally did everything myself. Whereas now, 4 years ago, I invested in a new website. I, hired a copywriter. I hired, I've hired people in my business to help me do the things that, really aren't my forte. And that's really, how can anybody who, maybe does, I don't know, hairdressing or something, totally unrelated to brand design, it's very, very difficult to turn your hand to it unless you've had the training. And, I've worked in brand design for 16 years now, coming up. And I think it's just something that you really do have to know what you're doing, otherwise it can just end up looking very generic. And especially at the moment where, businesses are finding things really, really difficult, decision making in the marketplace is becoming a lot more, I want to say slow. People are really careful about what they buy, and the reason they make a decision to buy from you is because they obviously like the product or the service that you're offering, but also they have been attracted by your visual branding. And I think to have that is something that you can really have in your armory, going forwards into the next, year, 2 years of potentially a difficult time for a lot of businesses. So just to have that in your armory is really, really powerful. So, I would always say, if you can invest, then do it, because you will see that return in investment very, very quickly, actually. And it's been, proven time and time again for all of my clients. I can say, hundreds of women over the last 9 years have all had the same experience. And I'm sure, for your agency as well, Donna, you've seen exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for us, whenever there is a brand build, often it's so much more than just what people perceive branding to be. Like, it's not just a logo and a sub-logo and a bunch of colours. And yes, we can create this fantastic asset for you, which gives you your guidelines, and you can use that going forward for your identity, of course. Yeah. But it's much, much more than that. And we've always really enjoyed being involved in other areas of the business that kind of stem off from that branding. Obviously, it's a fundamental part, and we enjoy it. But for us, it's always been about the way in which you then take that and use it and run with it in such a way that you communicate just within those kind of like core values to your business, that message deepening that you have when you actually share anything online, anything at all that is identifiable as you. And that's the beautiful thing, isn't it? And like I've put a couple of podcasts out recently about not buying into the external scarcity. Like everybody that you'll listen to right now is talking about how we're going into recession and that there's no money and people aren't buying. And there's, so many of the people that I've spoken to have asked me the question, like, should I be pulling back? Is this the right time to be building my branding? Is it the right time to be thinking about my marketing? Is it the right time for me to even be pushing my business? And I think, actually the people who can recognize that the people are still out there buying, and whatever you do in this period of time is going to really, really kind of give you either a standing so that when things do even out, you're there, you're ready, you're the go-to person, or just to kind of be not one of those people that's hiding in the shadows right now out of fear.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, being your branding isn't just about the colour scheme. It's so much more than that. It's about being identifiable in multiple deeper ways. And somebody once said to me, branding is just a colour scheme and a tagline. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like it's so much more than that. Yeah. Branding actually helps people to be ring-fenced and identify as your type of person. Yeah. And you wouldn't believe how many people have not worked with me because I'm too pink. Like that, I get that all of the time. Like, Dawney, I love your message. I love the things you do, but you're just too pink for me, and I'm not a pink person. And it's so funny every time it happens because I'm just like, cool, because I am pink. Like, if there was a way to identify us, we are. Every shade of it, we're there for it. And it's not just about attracting the right people, but it's also about, or like not attracting people who aren't right for you.
Exactly. And if somebody, had an issue with you being pink, having lots of pink things, then that's kind of a bit of a red flag to me, because I'm kind of like, well, maybe they're not a right fit for me, or for you, obviously. My branding colours are black and gold. Like if somebody said, I don't like black and I don't like gold, well, all right, like if that's the reason, they're obviously just coming up with some random reason, because if you are obviously showing that you do a great job, then like you say, it's just a colour. It's nothing that necessarily represents everything that you do. That there's more to branding than just the colour, as you say. So yeah, completely agree with that. And yeah, absolutely. And I do think that where people are going to be stepping back, my advice would be for you to keep stepping forwards. Whoever's listening to this, this is your message really, to keep putting yourself out there, because you might not see the return right away for all of the things that you're putting out there, but certainly, come, you've got to give it time, haven't you? I think a lot of people get a little bit disheartened that they're doing all of these things and putting all of their things out there into the world, and they're not yet seeing any return. But I think it's important to just keep going. And, I've been in business 9 years and, survived the whole pandemic nonsense and all of that. And the reason I've come through it is because I've just been resilient enough to just keep going, even when things are really rubbish. You've just got to keep going, because there's always going to be something, isn't there? There's always something that's potentially going to be, a stop in your business, and you've just got to keep going. And I think that's the main takeaway message really, is that where everybody else is stepping back, or a lot of people are certainly, you've just got to be the person in your industry that's stepping forwards and saying, well, I'm still here, and people do still have money. I was saying before about people are perhaps, maybe needing a little bit more of not a push, but they're considering things maybe a little bit more. But if you're the business that's, invested in your brand, that's got everything sort of aligned in terms of your messaging, then you're the person they're going to pick, because you've done the work, and you stand out as the person in, your competitors that's done a good job at really putting yourself out there and doing all the right things that you need to be doing at the moment.
Yeah, and I always say, when people are choosing to work with you, I personally don't believe that there's any such thing as competition, because if there's enough business for everybody out there, there's enough, and everybody kind of aligns with whoever they align with, and it's about giving people the opportunity to realise and recognise that you're the right person to align with, isn't it? And if you've gotten that branding in a place where you're so comfortable, it's so authentic, it's just an extension of who you are or who that business is meant to be. If it's not a personal brand, if it's actually like a normal brand like everybody is aware of, then it really allows you that different level. And one thing that I will say about the cheap logos and the bolt-on things and all the things that people do to kind of like bridge the gap so that they don't have to invest, those things are so temporary that it almost hinders your opportunity for audience building. It almost hinders your chance to really identify yourself. And you can tell the difference between a $12.99 logo that you've had done on Fiverr and a professional branding suite and an asset that becomes such an investment for your business that it actually grows, in terms of its value whilst your business grows. And that's so important. For me, I've always really enjoyed having the opportunity to kind of identify my entire vision for what the business does and how it supports within the branding. And it's funny when you said like, somebody chose not to work with you because it's just a colour, it's pink. But I think what they recognised in the fact that we're pink is that we are fluffy, we are, we are pink, we are that Care Bear. So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, you're too pink, what they're actually identifying with is the emotional scale, that psychological emotional scale that we've kind of counterbalance from the colour wheel when we've made our decisions on our branding. And they're not wrong. We are pink, we are fluffy. I quite often people have said to me, you call everybody babe or darling or whatever, and it just is part of our personality. Our brand identifiers are very much part of our personality, and if you can communicate, and I totally think it's a good thing when somebody comes to us and says, oh, you're too pink for us to work with you, because it means that they've identified us correctly. They're probably the people that would look for something that's far more serious, perhaps not so kind of candy floss fluffy. And I get it, I totally get it. But that is the vibe we're trying to put out. That is who we are, so that you can make that key decision. Like, are you the type of person that would choose to work with us or not? Right. And it just gives that really fantastic opportunity for people to make that, to make that decision. So before we sign off, Rebecca, can you give us a few of your kind of like top branding tips that people can go and implement?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost is definitely to, identify who you are as a business. Make sure that you've kind of looked at, your brand values, the types of things that you want to communicate in your business, because that will really be the cornerstone for everything that you do in terms of all of the choices that you make, the tone of voice that you use to your target audience as well. And then that would be, number two, look at your target audience. And that might not necessarily be, the person that you've worked with before or the people. It's definitely something which I always say, who is your dream client? Who is your dream customer? Because that's who we really want to attract. We want to attract the people that, who aren't going to say, oh, you're too pink for me. We want to say, oh, I love the pink. I want to work with you because that's what I love. And I think that's really, really important to get specific on, who it is that you want to attract to your business as well, because again, that's going to really be the linchpin to hold all of your sort of brand strategy together. And even looking at the silly things like, what kind of things do they buy? What kind of brands do they resonate with as well? Because that will really help you with not just the visuals, but also the content for your brand as well. So that's really, really important. And I suppose another thing would be to, I love a mood board, Dawney. Like, it's one of my favourite things. And I always say to, people who are just starting out, if you want to do anything yourself, and you don't really want a professional to come in straight away and do all of your visuals and things like that, create a mood board. That is absolutely, even whether it's just like a Pinterest board or something like that, it's really nice just to put things together that, you as a business really like, in terms of what you feel reflect your values, colours, the type of fonts that you feel might represent your business. So that's a really, really good starting point, just to kind of get some initial ideas together, because quite often a brand designer will ask you, about things that you do kind of associate with as well. So it's kind of doing a little bit of homework before you approach a designer to work with. And I think as well, the last thing I kind of want to say is, obviously the importance of choosing a brand designer to help you in your business with your, visual strategy and everything. And the best way to do that is to just have a look around and see who, is your vibe, who you feel that you could work with, who you think would do the best job for your business and your brand, and just to look at all the testimonials and things like that. Before you go onto Fiverr and think that you're just going to get something, quickly done, it is best to go down the route of finding a professional designer who is going to really nurture your business, and that's what we love to do, and Dawny loves to do that as well. So I think we're probably on the same page with that, having that sort of nurturing feeling when you work with a design agency or a studio.
Yeah, I mean, for us, one of the things that we really love to delve into is the psychological selling points and the emotive response. And that's the area that we kind of focus quite a lot of our attention on, because people obviously worry about whether you'll turn somebody off. But if you're going to turn somebody off, you want to. Losing somebody off wanting to work with you, or losing them off your email list or your subscriber list, is actually a really good thing, because what you're potentially doing is just honing back into those people who are truly interested, and that's never ever going to be a bad thing. And I love all of that. I think it's so important, and people don't, it's like when we have issues over our own self-esteem, and I feel like this is a very similar thing when it comes to our businesses. We don't feel like our businesses are big enough that they should require a brand. Like, oh, it's just a little side hustle, or oh, it's just it's just my income, it's just a small salon, or it's just a little business, or it's just a bit of this. It's not just anything. It's got its identity already, whether you deny it or not. It already has. The moment you put it online, the moment somebody can buy from you, it already is. It's built into this thing. It's already a thing. Yeah. So by that point, you do need to give yourself the opportunity to make sure that it really is available for people to recognize what it is you do, why you do it, why it's important, why you are the go-to person in your industry for whatever reason, and just like enough for them to know whether they want to work with you or not. And I think one of the things that you can really do wrong with your branding, and I'm sure that you would agree, is to try and force it into being something that it's not. Like, it should be so authentic, even if it's not a personal brand. It should be so authentic and feel good to the business owner, the founder, the CEO, whatever. Like, it should feel good. You should want to present it. It should be something that you're really proud of, and something that just gives it that professional feel that you can be really happy to show off to the world. And I think there's nothing worse than having something that doesn't feel right to you and trying to force that out when it isn't something that you're proud of.
Definitely. And I think that's something which, with my own clients, I often say to them, well, do you like it? Because I think that sometimes they can focus a lot on, who it is that they're attracting. But if it doesn't resonate with them as a business owner, then that's really where alarm bells start ringing, because they're not going to want to put it out there. As you say, they'll feel really nervous about, sending people to their website or giving a business card over at a networking event or something like that. And they're kind of going, oh, actually, I don't want to give them this because it doesn't represent me. So it's really, really important that it resonates with the business owner, whether it's a bigger business and, as you say, the CEO is going to be, having a decision on that as well. I think it has to feel like the business it's representing. And I think that's difficult with a bigger business than it is with a smaller one, because there's a lot more decision makers. But when you can get, that decision made where everyone's on the same sort of page and everyone feels really confident with it, then, it's gold really, isn't it? It's something which you can't really replicate with somebody on Fiverr, because a lot of thought and a lot of detail and a lot of planning has gone into that brand as well. So it's definitely something that's going to fill you with confidence when you get out there and start, really promoting what you're doing as a business as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Where can people come and find you?
So I've got my website is www.rebeccawatsondesign.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram as Rebecca Watson Brand Designer as well. So pop along and find me and say hello. But yeah, it's been really, really nice. So thank you very much for having me, Dawney.
Thank you so much, darling. Really, really appreciated your time today. And I think it'd be valuable for my listeners to just kind of consider where they're at in terms of their branding, and actually just doing that really, really simple thing of scoping it out for yourself. Are you at this point where you feel totally comfortable with your identity? Have you had branding done? I mean, what's really funny is the amount of rebrands we get is massive as well. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Rebecca, because as businesses change, so often things do need a tweak. They do need a facelift. These things do happen. And once you've gotten to a stage where you're actually quite comfortable with your messaging, it's very easy to have a rebrand. And although it will look slightly different, it still totally feels like you, and it's almost like the energetics that you put into that allows it to happen. So check it out, see how you feel, give yourself the permission to scope it out for your own business. Where are you at in terms of your branding? Does it need a facelift? Is it something that you've never done and it's time to actually go all in and sort out? And there are so many different ways that you can communicate your message, but getting this fundamental kind of foundational stuff not just is a massive asset at any time of year, but it definitely is a massive asset at this current time and situation that we're in. I hate the phrase like separating the men from the boys. It's such a patriarchal phrase. I need to figure out the female equivalent or the non-binary equivalent of that phrase. But at the end of the day, there are going to be a number of businesses that shy away into the shadows in the next coming months, and there'll be a number of businesses that consciously do not. And I just hope that the majority of our listeners can find a way that they are in that latter category and still show up, still shine your light, still let people know who you and your businesses are. And you will notice that there are still opportunities, there's still so many fantastic clients out there to be had, and we don't have to buy into this scarcity metric. We do have the potential to still be stood tall, shining our light on the other side of this. But thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode. If you aren't already, please do subscribe, give us a review, download, do your thing, and as always, do come over and find us in my free group on Facebook, The Social Pretties, where we can continue the discussion further. If you're loving our Pretty podcast, come on over to Social Pretties, our online safe house and sisterhood community. It's a safe space where female entrepreneurs connect and thrive in a warm, welcoming fold of pretty amazing women. You'll find an easy redirect in the description, and I can't wait to see you in there. And depending on where you're listening right now, we would love it if you would click subscribe or follow so that you can be the first to know when our new podcasts come out.